Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a series of mysterious explosions that just rocked Iran, sending some serious shockwaves through a region that's already on edge. So let's get right to the heart of it. Was this a coordinated, sophisticated attack, or just a really bizarre string of freak accidents? This is the central question that has intelligence agencies and analysts all over the world scrambling for answers, because, as you're about to see, the official story and what was actually happening on the ground, well, they just weren't lining up. And before we get into all the theories, it's just really important to remember the real-world impact here. Initial reports confirms that at least 5 people were killed, with another 14 injured. It's a stark reminder that this isn't just a political chess game. This whole mystery has a very tragic human cost. Okay, so before we jump into the speculation and the whodunit part of this, let's just establish the hard facts. What do we actually know about these mysterious blasts? First off, just look at the locations. The 2 confirmed blasts were hundreds of miles apart. One was in Bandar Abbas, a really key port city and home to a major naval headquarters. The other was way over in Ahvaz near the Iraqi border. But here's the kicker. They happened at almost the exact same time. That timing alone strongly suggests this was no accident. And we're not talking about small incidents here. Eyewitness reports from Bandar Abbas said the whole city heard the boom. In one video, you can see that 2 entire floors of an 8-story building were just completely blown out. So yeah, these were massive, incredibly destructive events. Almost immediately, the story became a battle of narratives. The official explanation coming out of Iranian state media started to clash, and clash hard, with what people on the ground were actually seeing and reporting. A full-blown information war just ignited. State media first came out and said gas pipeline explosions, but residents of that building in Bandar Abbas immediately shot back, saying, there is no gas pipeline here. So the official story quickly shifted to unknown causes, even as reports were popping up on social media from people claiming they saw missiles in the sky. And of course, social media just went into overdrive. Suddenly, you had rumors swirling about a targeted attack on the Navy chief of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Unverified reports of dozens of other blasts started pouring in from all over the country. All of a sudden, the picture being painted online was of a massive nationwide event, far beyond what the government was admitting to. Okay, so if we can pretty much rule out a bunch of random gas leaks, what are the big theories about what really went down? This is where we step into the shadowy worlds of intelligence and covert operations. You know, when you boil it all down, analysts are really looking at 3 main buckets this could fall into. A genuine, if highly coincidental, series of accidents, some kind of internal conflict or sabotage, or, of course, the hand of a foreign power. Now, to really understand the most prominent theory, we have to talk about this term modus operandi. It's basically a signature, right? A calling card, a specific, well-established way of doing things that can point you right back to a particular actor. And this is why that whole modus operandi thing is so important. The very first finger of suspicion pointed directly at Israel. This type of attack, mysterious, coordinated, deep inside enemy territory, it has Israel's signature written all over it. I mean, think about past operations, like the sabotage of Hezbollah pagers or the targeted killings of Iranian scientists. Now, Israeli officials did deny involvement, but for a lot of analysts, the motive and the method, they just fit perfectly. But then there's another angle. What if the enemy wasn't from the outside at all? What if it was internal? One theory points to growing dissent, anti-regime forces, maybe with some foreign help carrying out sabotage. But there's an even darker, more complicated version, that the IRGC itself was conducting a kind of cleaning exercise, a purge of its own people, and one of those operations just went spectacularly wrong. And of course, you can't have a crisis in the Middle East without asking, what about the United States? I mean, they had a massive naval armada parked literally just miles off the coast, and U.S. forces were on high alert. Their official response was a simple no comment. And to be clear, no evidence has emerged that points to direct U.S. involvement. Now, this is so important to understand. None of this happened in a vacuum. To really get the gravity of the situation, you have to look at the context, because things in the Persian Gulf were already at a boiling point. This all went down at a moment of extreme, nail-biting tension. I mean, just look at this timeline. It's basically a 48-hour pressure cooker. The day before, Iran announces major naval exercises. The morning of the blasts, the U.S. issues a stern warning. That afternoon, boom, the explosions happen. And those Iranian naval drills, they were set to start the very next day, right next to the US fleet. The timing isn't just coincidental, it's wildly provocative. So what you had was a genuine powder keg situation. You had two powerful naval forces on high alert, staring each other down just miles apart in one of the world's most critical waterways. I mean, the potential for one tiny miscalculation to set off a massive conflict was just off the charts. All right, this brings us to our final section. And honestly, this is where things get really murky. The theories here go beyond a simple state-on-state fight and enter the realm of shadow wars and global manipulation. Because after all that, we're left with way more questions than answers. Seriously, think about these. Was this a failed attack, or was it just sending a message? If a country was behind it, why did no one take credit? And why, after that initial storm of blasts, did everything just go quiet? That silence is almost as suspicious as the explosions themselves, and it raises a terrifying possibility that a hidden bad actor is trying to provoke a war for its own reasons. And that brings us to one final, and maybe the wildest theory of them all, suggesting these events aren't even really about Iran and the US. Instead, they could just be one move in a much, much larger global intelligence chess game. Some analysts are actually floating this idea, linking the timing of the crisis in Iran to something totally different, the release of sensitive files right here in the US. The thinking is, what if this was all just a giant, sophisticated smokescreen, an attempt by some intelligence agency to create a massive international crisis, to make the world look over here so they don't see what's happening over there? And in the end, that's what's so unsettling about these explosions. It's a perfect example of modern conflict. You've got state media, social media, covert operators, all spinning their own story. And in that kind of information war, the first thing to die is usually the truth. It leaves all of us asking, in a world of shadow wars and misinformation, how can we ever really know who's pulling the strings?